Yeah, my name's Nick King, as it says up there, from the Environment Agency. I'm the data governance lead. I'm not the data governance manager, that's my boss. So if you have any really difficult questions, you can email her later. My background, I'm not a traditional data manager at all. My first job in the Environment Agency was walking up and down rivers looking for otters and blue tips and stuff like that. The best job I ever had until I came into data governance. Getting little bits on site. I then progressed working in sort of pollution response enforcement. Ended up working in an enforcement team dealing with some pretty nasty characters. Some of those guys went to jail for their offences they were committing. And that's something that has standing me in good stead for data governance with some of the people I've dealt with internally. Luckily none of them punch me or draw shotguns on me, but it's a key. About 5 years ago I joined the data governance team. Bit of a career change, but I can totally see why I did it now. There's a lot of similarities, and a lot of the skills I've learned over the years have helped me in this job. To give you a little bit of a background about the Environment Agency, I guess most people have heard of us. Yeah. Probably best known for flooding, protecting people against flooding, the criticism we face for not protecting people from being flooded. But we do a lot of other work as well. Industrial regulation, big chemical plants. Waste regulation, we look after scrapyards, big landfill sites, all those sort of things. Land and water quality, we look after farming. We monitor rivers, the water quality in rivers, for fish, for drinking water abstraction. We do water resources to make sure we've all got enough water to drink and the companies are abstracting enough while protecting the environment. Aquatic ecology, we look after that, water voles, otters, things like that. Fisheries is a very big aspect of our work, both from stocking rivers and checking people have licences, allowing them to fish. Things that's less well known for, we've got navigation on the waterways, we register a lot of boats on different rivers in the country. So there's a lot of data there, and obviously the work that I was doing in the enforcement world, tackling the big, bad, nasty offenders. And obviously there's a lot of data that allows us to do risk assessments and target the people we should be hitting and stopping the damage in the environment. Just a couple of stats about the agency and the volume of data we have. Bathing waters, the picture on the left-hand side middle row. There's about 500 bathing waters in the country. They're monitored between May and September every week, so that's quite a lot of data there. Water Quality Archive we've just released. There's about 85 million records on that, and that's now been released as open data, should anyone want to look at that. Anyone here own a house? Or mortgage holders? You probably used our data when you had your assessments for your house, your environmental searches, are there landfills, are you flood risk? That's Environment Agency data. So you can see the breadth of data we have in our operational teams, but we've also got data behind the scenes, health and safety, fleet management, IT, etc., etc. We look after it all, we govern it all with our data governance program. I will talk today about how we've implemented data governance in the Environment Agency, some measures of how we measure it and how we communicate to the people at the top. And we feel this is taking us forward. We're not there yet, but it's some good measures that I think we've taken forward. And a lot of what we've mentioned already today is, I think, stuff that we've adopted. So you won't take some of the thunder out of my talk, really. But I think it backs us up. So the first thing really I want to talk about, data governance isn't about IT, as we've all said. It's not about data, so it's about the people. So how do we do this in the Environment Agency? Well, the team that I sit in, the data governance team, if you like, sit there. It's made up of people from an IT, more traditional data background, as well as people like myself who come from the operational field side of things. That helps us put data in the language of the business. I can talk the hind leg of the donkey about enforcement and fish and everything like that, but it really helps when you're having a conversation. I struggle more perhaps if I'm talking to finance, but that's when I bring in a colleague who can talk about finance in their language. A little example of that is I was talking to one of my previous bosses about the importance of data and how we need to get the data governance sorted. Completely blank face. And I said to him, remember that spreadsheet I used to manage for you about the surveillance operations we do on spying on the big nasty people? When we have a start time, a finish time, a sign-off time. Yeah, right, that's a data set. That's really good, it's a really important data set. And you have that thing on there that says we've got to have a start time that must be after the senior officer has authorised it. Oh yeah, you know how important it is to get that right. Yeah. Data quality. So they put it in the business's language, they start to get it. So that's the team I sit in. We oversee everything. We have a governance board, which we call the steering group, made up My boss and her boss sit on that, and someone head it up. I sit there as the glorified secretary, I think is my role on that. But importantly, we've got people from the business sitting on that. We come together, we discuss ideas, but stuff that we're putting forward to help effective data management, effective governance, communicate it to those guys, get their take, and when we come up with something that's going to work for the business, you've got those guys on your side then, they're going to take that out into the business, and it makes it much easier as that channels down through the wider environment agency. Which I should have said, the EA covers England, about 10,000 employees, about 15 sort of business areas, which are further broken down into a total of 62 sub-business areas. So an example of that, the flooding department is broken down into flood response, flood warnings, and the sort of flood assets. So that's how we break it down in the agency. And we've got about 14 geographic areas now, which has changed the last couple of weeks. That will become clear when I'm talking about that in a moment. So I've talked about sort of the governance, but the data's out there in the business. So how do we manage that? We have, ultimately, each of those business areas, so flooding, has an executive custodian. That's the term we use. This is someone ultimately accountable. If there's a problem with flooding, who is the chief executive? Who does David Cameron come to? It's this guy. This is the person in charge. They set the budgets. They should be looking at the legislative changes. They should be looking at the political requirements. They sit right at the top. They should be carrying it, ultimately accountable. A bit perhaps removed from the data, but they're very accountable. Next level down, we have what we call a national custodian. So I talked about the business area being broken down. The national custodian will be the person in charge of that sub-business area. Much closer to the data, and they're keeping an eye on their particular function across the geographic extent of the Environment Agency. They'll be looking for consistency, making sure the quality, making sure everyone's doing it right, and kind of almost enforcing that they identify perhaps a problem in Cornwall. You guys aren't filling in the data, you need to do it. They're the person who does that. Likewise, that person in the area office can report good practice back up and say, oh, actually, we found a really good way of doing it, so that national custodian can communicate that to the wider network. So it helps efficiencies. Lastly, we've got the local custodian. This is typically an area manager with responsibility in the area for one of those functions, so a fisheries manager or a flood manager, something like that. They actually manage the teams who are collecting the data, inputting the data, sometimes using the data. They control the resources, they make sure those people are trained up. That's how that works. The national custodian, absolutely key, because he's talking to the local area, he's also talking to the executive. Bringing it together, ensuring it's consistent. That's the roles we've got up there. There's another role that I haven't mentioned, and this is a technical custodian. And we found recently this is absolutely vital. This is the person who could be in any of those teams that really cares about the data. Someone who understands it, they understand the provenance, they know if there's third-party data in it, they know the sort of say intellectual property, they know if there's any data issues and any data protection issues you need to be aware of. They're absolutely important, and they're the people who are really interested in data. So you can work with those guys to communicate the messages up, as well as having the big steer going down. Not forgetting that, so we've got about 9,000 or 9,500 employees in the agency, something like that. We've got a data army out there. Everyone's involved in data, we've heard this morning. And a lot of those people are actually really passionate about data. I wasn't one of them when I was in the field team, until I got called out in court. But I said, no, that's I didn't have a permit, and the judge said, are you sure? Absolutely. And then he showed me a bit of paper that the defence had shown us, and it was a print off of one of our records saying the site had a permit. And I knew data stuff quite important. I think that was my moment when I sort of started to understand it. In their time. That's how we do it. We have data integrity is a corporate risk in the Environment Agency, so the board see it every quarter. It's up there with flooding, it's up there with health and safety, so it's great. Data is on the radar. So that's kind of the people. But how do we know how we're performing in the agency? So we developed this, which is a data maturity model, reference to IBM, because we sort of flagged it off them in the first place and adapted it for the Environment Agency. And put it in the Environment Agency language, put it in the talk of the business.